From his 2018 album, Public Horses on Parade, the song is Where We Belong, featuring Andy Conrad on vocals and harmonies. Andy also plays guitar on the album. A multi-instrumentalist, Andy plays all the instruments on the album. The same can be said for every album in his catalog. From his home studio on the outskirts of St. Louis, he has written, performed, and produced 14 LPs. Again, playing and singing all the parts. You're listening to Frets with DJ Fey. No lessons, no technique info. I just talk to people who play guitar. Stay tuned. Andy Conrad.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome, Dave. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here, Dave.
So what age were you when you started playing guitar?
So I think I was about 14, and I had borrowed a good friend's brother's guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I just kind of fiddled around with it until I started figuring a few things out, and suddenly they wanted it back for whatever reason, and so I started saving my money for my own guitar, which turned out to be a Mexican Strat, and I remember riding my bike, my 10-speed bike, to go pick it up.
Nice.
And I'm actually, so I don't know if this is interesting or not, but I'm left-handed. So I'd gone there with the intention of buying a left-handed guitar, but the store owner talked me out of it. He said those are more expensive because he explained they had to retool all the machines and they had to set up to make these guitars. So he talked me into playing right-handed, which I, of course, do now. And I remember him telling me I would shred with my left hand. I don't know if I've been able to really shred, but I do okay.
Yeah. Now, was this in the St. Louis area? Or wait, you were from Kansas?
Kansas City. Yeah, Kansas City, Kansas. Yeah.
Did you take any kind of lessons, or were you self-taught?
No, self-taught. And it really was just listening to things and trying to figure out songs. I did buy like chord books that helped me. And then, and there I had a couple friends too that played music. And so we would once in a while get together. We were no good, but we would share similar interests in music. And then we'd try to figure out songs.
Right. What was the first band you were in?
The first band I was in was Gravy. You know them, right?
Gravy. Oh yeah, didn't you guys do a cover of the song "Mashed Potato"? Or what? Sorry.
It was just it was when I moved to St. Louis. Really, it was the first band I was really in, and we played a few shows and farted around in someone's basement, and that was it.
Wow. So that was in St. Louis.
It was in St. Louis. Yeah.
And so around that time, around the Gravy days, who were some of your influences?
Salad days.
Yeah.
So my influences?
Yeah. Like music in general, guitar influences or music influences? Yeah,
well, okay, so Beatles, which is rare, right, for that to be mentioned first. Beatles. Beatles, Kinks, Van Halen, and then I got into Elliott Smith. I was really into him and his music and his style. I really like the only thing I'm really proud of on guitar is finger picking. So I spend a lot of time doing that. So I liked Elliott Smith's style and his singing, and he was a pretty big influence. Radiohead. Who else did I tell you I like?
Yeah, down the list. No, but all great influences. Yeah. You were also in a band, Colony, that actually toured some.
Yeah, we were mostly in the Midwest, and we played some sort of like, what do they call them? Sort of like these little feature shows. Showcases is what they're called in LA, a couple shows. And that was exciting, but, it was kind of short-lived for me. It was probably a couple of years.
When I first started looking up some songs by Colony, it kept directing me to some hardcore band who was also called Colony.
Yeah, I think there are a few Colonies out there.
So fast forward to when you and I met.
Yeah.
And we worked for the same company.
Mm-hmm.
We started talking about music and what we liked. We even had this thing where once a week we would share something 10 songs via a thumb drive. Thumb drive Thursday.
Thumb drive Thursday, that's right. Yeah.
Where you'd turn me on to some songs that you were into. I'd put some songs on a drive.
Yeah.
You, me, and Doug Wick. I think we had a third guy. Doug Wick's out there. Hello, Doug. Yeah. It's funny because it seems kind of archaic where now we can just share a playlist on one of our streaming services.
Thumb drive.
But I kind of liked it, the thumb drive thing. It seemed like this sort of like covert operation. Like, hey, you get the drive?
Yeah, it was special. Yeah. I had to take time to load it on the thumb drive and drag that big old thumb drive to work. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I forgot about that.
Well, I have to give you credit for turning me on to some great stuff. And I was already starting to get into Grizzly Bear. Was one of the bands I was really already liking, but I was somehow I was unaware that Daniel Rawson had a side project, the band Department of Eagles.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite albums. In Ear Park.
In Ear Park, yeah. You put some songs from In Ear Park on a drive. Actually, I think you put the whole album on there, and that like right there expanded my interest in Daniel Rawson, who I think is just uniquely brilliant. And back in 2015, I got to see him play solo at Union Chapel in London.
That's right.
He was promoting his EP, Silent Hour, Golden Mile, and it was really a special show. But yeah, what an interesting, both by Grizzly Bear and Department of Eagles, just interesting stuff.
Yeah, I didn't mention them at the beginning. I really like his style of guitar playing.
So I got to ask you, do you remember when we first met and were working in the same company?
I don't remember meeting you.
You don't remember me at all. I have no memory of that. No, we worked kind of within earshot of each other across the hall. And I don't know at what point you started this, but if I would be walking down the hall and go past your office, you would break into this little theme song of sorts for me. Do you remember this at all?
No.
Okay, I was trying to get...
Was it catchy at least?
It was a take on the song Fame.
Oh, that's right, Fey.
Yes, Fey, he's going to live forever.
I'm very clever. Now that I think about it, thanks for reminding me.
So, that'll probably get cut. I had that in my mind for some reason the other day. Something came up about that, and I forget. Somebody else, I think at Checkmark used to do that.
All right, we're back with Dave Fey and Andy Conrad.
Hey. So it was around that same time that we're trading music covertly, illegally, that you gave me one of your CDs, Spare a Fire. And I was just knocked out because I didn't know you were doing your own stuff. And it was really, really good stuff.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. And then I find out that you did like the whole thing and played all the instruments and recorded it all and produced it all. I mean, I've heard some songwriters say they start with lyrics they wrote, then they create a tune around those lyrics. Some go with a melody that's in their head and then come up with some words for the melody. What's your songwriting approach or method?
Good question. It changes, it shifts. It could come off of just a tiny little idea. A lot of times it's like a little, I guess I think in terms of like a catchy chorus phrase, if that makes sense. Maybe work off of that, or yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a melody in your head, but to be honest, I mean, a lot of it's just kind of messing around with a guitar or keyboard typically, and just seeing what I like. And so, but lately I've been just recording and writing just music and then approaching the lyrics and the singing later, because I think the music is so fun and it's just a flow. And I don't judge the music like I do lyrics and the content of the lyrics. And, because I think it's easier to judge lyrics And I definitely do that. So yeah, I've been doing that separately, and I've kind of enjoyed it. It's helped me just kind of flow through the music part.
If you're a podcast addict like me, you might have thought about starting your own. I'm having a lot of fun creating and sharing my podcast, Frets with DJ Fey. It seemed daunting at first, and I had no idea how to proceed after recording my first episodes. Then I discovered Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped over 100,000 people, even knuckleheads like me, launch a podcast. The tools they provide make it incredibly easy to get your thing going. They'll also help you get your podcast into all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You get a great-looking website, audio players to drop into other websites, analytics, and tools to promote your podcast. To get a no-risk free trial of Buzzsprout, or to find out about their low-cost monthly plan options, follow the link in today's show notes and let them know that DJ Fey sent you. Learn the ins and outs of podcasting through people who eat, drink, and breathe it. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. Now, back to mine. Well, you're incredibly prolific. I mean, on Apple Music alone, you have over a dozen albums.
Mm-hmm.
Your album, Broken Songbirds and Other Folk Songs, was that the one where you took lyrics from a book of writing that was like an uncle or poetry?
No, that's a different one, a similar style. I don't know if the album you're talking about was recorded right after that one. I don't remember, but it was a friend of mine, Andy Newberger. His dad, Ansel Newberger, has been writing poetry for however long, 50 years, 60 years. And I got a book of his poetry, and I just kind of surprised him one day and said, "What, do you know this song?" And I had just written a song, and used his lyrics and or his writing. And so it was kind of like it was almost like getting his approval if he was digging it or not, and he loved it. And so I then chose, I think, 10 more songs and did an album, which was really fun because then I didn't have to worry about the lyrics, and judging the lyrics is like someone else could judge his lyrics, not mine. So it was nice. It was freeing.
So was this the Strangest Holiday?
No, the title was, it's a long title. Oh, An Ideal Horse. So the album title is An Ideal Horse, and something about music with Ansel Newberger's poetry, something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, really my goal for that was to make it as simple as possible, the writing of the music and the performing of it, no double tracking nonsense, nothing like that. And it was freeing because I think my music, it's like sometimes I listen to it, I'm like, what was I doing? It's like pretty dense and there's a lot going on. So it was nice just to be done with the songs, to be honest, and go, oh, okay, it just has like a couple parts and I'm done. It was a cool experience for me.
You also did an album that you first did as an instrumental and then did the same music with lyrics.
Yeah, that was, I think it started out as Nary a Word, and then The Strangest Holiday. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, was kind of my process now is, at least for now, is writing and performing the music all the way through for an entire album's worth of stuff, and then going back. And it doesn't mean I'm not entertaining lyrical ideas, it's just I don't really sit down and like really hash it out until after the music's done. But it's nice because I'll put my headphones on and I'll sit in my basement where I have my little setup, and I'll have maybe sometimes just an idea of the lyrics, and I'll just kind of start singing different stuff and see what works. And if it's not happening, I'll go back and actually sit down and write the words out and have them planned. But sometimes I think I've come up with some stuff that I think is decent when I'm just doing it on the fly, where I might be stuck. So I like that process. Something like I'll just start messing around, and it's just kind of getting the feel, getting warmed up, and then I'll kind of slow down, and then I'll go, okay, come on, Andy, pull it together. Just can you play a little G? Can you play a little D, maybe a little A? I don't know. So yeah, I just like to what would you say, Dave?
Let the mood rush over you.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Nice. Well, there was also a stretch a while back where you were performing solo at some shows around town.
Yeah, and I think I saw you at one or two of them at the Chapel.
Somewhere near WashU.
Yeah, near WashU is a very small venue. I think it's really a children's chapel, and I think they've turned into a music and arts venue. And that was maybe my favorite place I've ever played, and usually it was either myself or with a couple of my mates playing with me, but it was also kind of scary because everyone was listening. Usually when I was used to like just playing and people, I'd hear like beer bottles and chatter and, you want to holler out at everyone, you better listen to my music. But, they're just there to have a good time. But these people were there to listen to the music. And so that was kind of jarring because before you strum that first chord or sing that first note, it's dead quiet.
And it wasn't just guitar. You played a handful of instruments, if I remember right. Was it?
Oh yeah, I did. I brought a Fender Rhodes keyboard and I think my ukulele.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a fun show. That was an interesting venue. It was funny because it's one of those places I drive by like all the time. I had no idea what was in there. Did you ever have a chance to meet any of your guitar heroes?
I think maybe the way I think about that is, yes and no. I think my one really close friend of mine, John Armstrong, would maybe fall into that category. We've been, bandmates before, good friends, and we've collaborated on a bunch of music together. And recorded an album under the name The Bellheads. And so we had a lot of fun doing that. He lives in San Diego, so I would fly out there, I don't know, maybe a few times, and we would work on it and then send our files, share files, and we'd work that way too.
Interesting.
So yeah, I guess, maybe he could fall in the hero category because he always seemed very confident, and you could either be really prescriptive with what you wanted or just give him a general idea and he could kind of poop it out. And it was really interesting. And so I think I kind of learned from him, just do it. And he was always really supportive. So, I'd say John Armstrong.
Yeah. So like someone you knew personally. That's very cool.
Yeah. And his style is really cool. I learned a lot.
The other question I like to ask everyone is there a band or artist that you really like that might surprise some people?
Yes. Very surprising, Dave, is Duke Ellington.
Oh, I love Duke Ellington.
The Duke is the greatest.
Yeah.
He's in my maybe top 3 of all time. Stevie Wonder, Duke, Beatles. But Duke Ellington, it's also very weird and strange and surprising. And so, don't knock it until you listen to it. I mean, if you like Radiohead, there's all these little surprises and these very strange arrangements and weird ways he stacks harmonies. It's sometimes it's just super pleasing, sometimes it's bizarro and just rhythmically. It's really interesting. So I listened to it a lot, and I'd stolen some records of my dad's, and that's what kind of got me into it.
Yeah, I always talk about that. But I forever eternally grateful that my dad had such a great album collection, especially jazz.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see those big old LPs. Yeah. Another surprising guy that no one would know, though, is Raymond Scott, who composed a lot of orchestral pieces, but he was also an innovator, and he had invented some oscillators and different machines and things that would create sounds. Huh. And I was really into that. I still listen to it. It's very interesting, and all things that sound like loops. And this isn't like in the 40s and 50s, I believe.
Wow.
So he was creating these machines and using them to compose even for like commercial use, like advertisements, all kinds of things. And it's just really interesting. So
I love that.
Check that out.
Raymond Scott?
Raymond Scott, yeah. No guitar, but interesting stuff.
Hey, this is a guitar podcast.
Oh, let's edit that out.
How did the lockdown days of the pandemic in 2020 affect you playing and recording?
I played, recorded, practiced more than ever. I spent a lot of time on my front porch, plucking away, strumming, writing music. I think I did 2 albums in that, a really short span of time. I still don't remember the titles. One is Paint the Neighborhood. The other one is that's The Strangest Holiday. It started out as just an instrumental album. So I spent a lot of time writing and recording. And I was working from home at that point. So there was a lot of time that wasn't spent, going back and forth places. I had more time at home. So, I enjoyed that part of the lockdown. Yeah. Not much else of it.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Just had to kind of channel it into something. Mm-hmm. Well, with the amount of albums you have in your catalog, you'd think being a musician might be tied somehow to what you do for a living, but your occupation is therapy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, clinical mental health. And, I always thought I would incorporate music into it. I'm sure I do somehow. And once in a while, we'll use it as a creative part of the process. But it is quite different.
I was wondering about that. If you ever used somehow
a little bit. It depends on who it is, of course. But I don't know. I feel like therapy is maybe even more creative than at times than even music. So, and kind of rolling with things. So yeah.
When you're not writing songs and recording music, I know you spend a lot of time with your family, but what music are you listening to these days?
It changes from day to day. Sometimes I listen to my LPs, which is mostly like jazz and classic rock stuff. But I had some Bo Diddley I was listening to, the Raymond Scott, electronic music from the 40s and 50s. The Beatles remixes are coming out. I've been digging those, and I'm a big Beatles nerd, and so the things that I notice no one else, not a big fan, they wouldn't notice. They'd have no clue. They say it sounds the same, but I'm trying to think what else I'm listening to.
Yeah, I never tire of when there's something unearthed, from the Beatles catalog.
Yeah, right. I'm going to tune in.
The Escher tapes or whatever the White Album's like. Yeah.
Yeah. Oliver Nelson, jazz, Wilco, just whatever strikes me. So
yeah. You're all over the place, like me, like everybody. So it's been 10 years now. It was 2011 when Spare a Fire came out.
Correctamundo.
There's a track on that I love, which is I Hear You More Than Ever. That is one where I'm intrigued by, how did it come about? Mm-hmm. What gear did you use for that? Gear as in instruments? Yeah. What was your approach for that?
Yeah, I do have a memory of recording it, and I do specifically remember layering a bunch of different guitars. So I recorded, I believe, an acoustic guitar first, kind of as the guide, and I kept it in. It's really low. And I had an electric guitar. I have this little, kind of a cheaper, they call it a DOT. It's like a cheap man's version of an ES335 Gibson. Oh, yeah. So it's a semi-hollow body. And so I use that, plugged it in, but then I also, since it's semi-hollow, I stuck a mic right next to the little F hole. So I recorded that. So it really gave it this really thin, jangly sound, which I really enjoyed. So I kind of, mixed those together as best I could. And and it has I think I remember it has a little funky little beat behind it. And yeah, it's a bunch of guitars, some of them playing the same thing, some of them playing some sort of some harmonic things on top of each other. So Yeah, and I used my the highest quality thing I have instrument wise is my Gibson Hummingbird acoustic. I love that thing, and so I'll usually I have some okay microphones, some larger diaphragm, like little condenser mic, and I'll just sit in front of that. Sometimes like a little 57 I'll stick next to the guitar and this little Rode mic, and that's it. So that's how I usually record acoustic guitar.
Really nice vocals on it too. And
yeah, thanks.
We haven't even talked much about that, but your singing voice is great.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
On the subject of equipment and gear, you obviously play multiple instruments.
Yeah, it's out of necessity. It became more and more difficult to hold a band together and stuff. So I really enjoyed just learning on the fly. And so, yeah, I do okay on piano or keyboard, and I love playing drums, and I was always notorious for trying to, edge my way into our drummer's drum kit just to fool around. So I think maybe everybody loves to do that. So yeah, it's out of necessity, and I just love spending time kind of chipping away at a song with little bits here and there.
And I hear when I listen to other songs on your other albums, experimental, I'm trying to think of a good example, but yeah, there's moments that are I would consider very experimental. I'm thinking of like things like, we keep talking about the Beatles, which we could talk about the Beatles forever, but on I Will, for example, if you're listening to that with headphones, I remember the first time I discovered, oh, that's not a bass guitar. That's Paul going dum, 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 dum.
Let's keep doing it.
Well, yeah, let's just do that. Let's do the whole song with our voices.
Yeah.
But have you used any of that kind of technique? Like, have you ever used your voice for an instrument? Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because my buddy John, I mentioned earlier, when we would record, and I still do it once in a while, we'd play mouth horns like, or I would just kind of in the background. And so that would become not like a featured instrument, but something just sort of setting some type of mood, I guess, if you will.
So, I think that's great. Yeah. What if it was possible to get local fresh groceries delivered right to your front door? You could take up guitar lessons with all that free time. I know a guy. Or learn the tuba. I don't give tuba lessons, but my point is, you'll have the extra time. Instacart gives you unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. That's way better than the other guys that nickel and dime you every time you use their app. Forget that one ingredient you need to make Aunt Bess's spaghetti sauce? Ugh, more frustrating than a broken B string. Instacart can deliver that that ingredient right to your front door faster than a Roy Clark guitar solo. You can shop multiple stores, find deals and offers in your area to help you save money, and every item is hand-selected by shoppers based on your preferences. No more rock-hard avocados, and they'll keep that carton of eggs safe from cracking, too. To start a 14-day free trial, follow the link in today's show notes to let Instacart know that DJ Fey, that's me, sent you, and to help support Frets with DJ Fey. And remember, stay tuned.
Hi, this is guitarist and songwriter Andy Conrad, and you're listening to Frets with DJ Fey. And no, it's not disc jockey Fey, for Christ's sake. It's David Joseph Fey. Turn on, tune in, check it out.
So what advice would Andy Conrad give to an aspiring young songwriter or musician?
Just play, write, record, whatever you like to hear, see how it turns out. And don't be upset when people don't get as excited about it as you. It's something I kind of had to learn the hard way. Is most people don't care as much as I do about music and what I do. And, a lot of people don't realize the work that goes in, and, it takes a lot of time, but it's usually really enjoyable for me. And so just thinking of the process rather than the product is really important.
Your albums are credited to Andy Conrad with a question mark. Andy Conrad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did that come about?
Like Andy Conrad. Who the hell is that?
What?
Who's this guy? Or Andy Conrad. That could be strange.
See, when I first saw it, I thought it was, my mind went to like question mark of the Mysterians, and then I confess, I got it. I was like, Andy Conrad? I assumed that's what you meant.
Andy Conrad? Who's listening to this?
But see, I already knew you, so I was like, yeah, well, I know who that is.
Yeah. Like you have to answer the question, right? Andy Conrad? I thought he was that jackass from Kansas City. He lives in St. Louis now?
Overland Park.
He should have stayed in Kansas City, son of a bitch.
So what's next for Andy Conrad? Any albums in the works?
You mean Andy Conrad?
Andy Conrad?
Well, I'm always threatening myself and my wife and my friends. I'm like, I'm never recording again. No one cares, Dave. Except for maybe you a little bit. No, but I mean, it is. It's like, what's next for me? I think I start to kind of get a little itchy when I'm not recording, to be honest, and like putting music together. And however it comes together, it's just, I love the process. I'm almost kind of like addicted to it. I think it's just a way for me to, I don't know, feel connected, I guess, in some way, and sort of like with, I don't know, who I am, and just like, that's it, Dave. I have nothing else to say.
You got nothing. I
was trying to sound really wise, but really it is. What's next for me? I have no idea, except I'm sure I'll be recording some other thing sometime soon. And I am in the midst of recording something now. Again, same thing. All music. I've started writing and recording the lyrics, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to that. I always enjoy when you send me a new album. Hey, I got a new album out. Love it.
Thanks, Dave.
And I think everyone needs to look up Andy Conrad.
Question mark? Yeah, do it. Go for it.
And you got to start listening to his stuff. It's really great.
It's free, right? I mean, you pay for a subscription to something.
Yeah.
You can listen to it all on YouTube, too, for free. I don't care.
Tell your friends.
I never asked for any money for this.
They are on YouTube as well. That's right. Andy Conrad, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for doing this.
You're welcome, Dave. Here's
to Yay, Andy. We're applauding. That has never happened in the end of one of the shows. I love it. That'll get your head bobbing. From his 2020 instrumental album, Nary a Word, that bouncy, tasty little tune is called The Light Brigade. By the way, the incidental music in today's episode was played not by yours truly, but by none other than Andy Conrad. Andy Conrad's newest release, Birds of a Song, is available on Apple Music. A link is in today's show notes. I hope you'll join me next time on Frets. Stay tuned.